Hello everyone, my name is Griffin and we are back with another reaction video. We are reacting to, name escaped me for a second, another video from Sydney Watson. This one is called The Parody of Motherhood Continues. Now, if this is what I think it is trans women who believe that, like, they can give birth to, children or something like that. I don't know. Let's just watch the video.
If you're a trans female and have kids, you're a mom.
Biologically, that is factually wrong. But if you're not talking biologically, then yes, you are a mother. But if you're going off biology, then you are biologically a father. And you can't change that because we currently do not have the technology to change that on a biological level anyways.
You're no less a mom than anyone else. Okay, so insist upon your identity.
It is genuinely all so tiresome.
This identity stuff. See, the thing is, you can identify as whatever you want that makes you happy. That's fine. But you cannot go and force that ideal upon society, because I guarantee you the majority of society will push back and they won't give a shit. And they will call you the opposite of it just to piss you off because you tried to force it on them. The thing is, you can respectfully ask people, hey, this is my pronouns. If you could please respect that and call me what I identify as, I would appreciate that. More often than not, 9 times out of 10, the person will comply with it and they will call you what you ask them for them to call you. But you cannot get upset and try and force your ideals on another person, because at that point you're just going to piss them off and they will no longer respect what you want to be called and they will call you what you biologically are. So call yourself what you want. If it makes you happy, go right ahead, as long as you do not affect the lives of those around you or hurt anybody around you. That's it.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to hell. And as per usual, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Factor. And of course by me and my tea company, Lions Tea Exchange. As most of you know by now, we make handcrafted artisan teas right here in the US of A. I put a lot of love into this company and I'd love for you to check it out and the blends we have, and I will pop a link in the description box. Now, this might sound dramatic, but I am of the opinion that linguistically, culturally, and medically, motherhood is being attacked. And it's funny because this
Politically and culturally, socially, yeah, it's being attacked and sort of erased in a sense, and I think it needs to stop.
This topic and this issue specifically is not actually a new one, and it's been both championed and attacked over the decades by different groups of people for different reasons. Like at one point, actually at a bunch of points, feminists were running around like motherhood is a prison and pregnancy is slave labor and everything is the Handmaid's Tale. And I'm sure there's some people even now who would agree with that. So suffice it to say, pregnancy, motherhood, children, child rearing, all of these things bring out all sorts of opinions from all sorts of people. But something that I personally have noticed over the last number of years is that motherhood is not venerated in the same way that it was maybe only a couple decades ago. So it seems like the seeds for the contempt of motherhood were definitely planted long ago. But it also seems, with the recent popularity of things like gender ideology and surrogacy, that seed germinated into something truly horrific, and that's putting it mildly. Now, it's not enough that motherhood is resented, it's actively mocked. And what made me want to talk about this was a series of recent viral videos, which I'm sure some of you may have already seen, showing a man with ample lip filler cradling his newborn surrogate baby moments after birth. This guy also appeared on a Trolley episode on YouTube talking about how his own sister is his surrogate.
My sister Brianna is carrying both our twins.
Personally, I think that's really weird, but apparently I'm alone in that, which, I'm not gonna lie, kind of surprises me. I didn't realize how many of you are weirdos. That's right. I'm passing judgment. People were understandably outraged by all of this, not just over the surrogacy component, but because this guy filmed himself in a hospital bed and also in a wheelchair as though he had been the one who had struggled through hours of painful labor giving birth to these children. In yet another video, he's seen holding one of the newborns in a way that one might hold a prop, not a baby.
Nathan is with Dylan in the NICU and I'm in the room with Kyle. And they're just perfect. I love them so much. They're gorgeous. They're already...
I mean, for a newborn, aren't you supposed to like cradle them and hold their head in your hand? And not hold them like that? I mean, I'm not a parent and I've never dealt with a newborn child, but aren't you supposed to cradle them when you hold them? Can someone let me know in the comments, please?
Already so advanced, so perfect.
The moment I saw these videos, admittedly, I was not impressed. Not just because these children were deprived of the fundamental moments with their mother, but also because this seems to be part of a wider trend of men in hospital beds acting like birthing mothers after buying a baby right out of a woman's womb. Not that I want to have a conversation here about
Paris Hilton wore a prosthetic baby bump while employing a surrogate because she wanted it to feel real. I don't understand this way of thinking. If you wanted it to feel real, then why the fuck didn't you get yourself pregnant? It's
surrogacy. Just
look, I can understand going through and getting a surrogate if you are unable to conceive yourself, or it's where it's life-threatening if you do conceive, so you go through a surrogate so the baby is made from your egg and your partner's sperm. I can understand that if you're unable to do it yourself, or if it's life-threatening, or whatever sort of other medical reasons, and you have to do through surrogacy. But to do it like this, it seems more of a mockery and an insult.
Just yet, because apparently everyone has.
51-year-old surrogate gives birth to her grandchild on behalf of. Okay, no, that is just all sorts of no. That is wrong.
An opinion on that. But it made me think of all the ways and examples where motherhood has been redefined, mocked, parodied.
Rachel Levine, I probably pronounced that wrong, praises Anchorage Gender Clinic that refers to mothers as egg. No, I'm sorry. No, that is insulting. I'm sorry. There are mothers out there who go through 9 months of pregnancy and then go through hours upon hours upon hours of labor and become a mother. I think it's mocking and insulting to those people who are genuine mothers to be called egg producers or any other sort of name other than mother. I don't see the problem with the word mom or mother. Why do people have such a problem with it? My mom didn't go through 18 months of pregnancy for both me and my brother to be called an egg producer. No, she's mom. She deserves the title of mother. And so do a lot of other women out there who have gone through months of pregnancy and hours of labor. They deserve the title mother. I find this is insulting.
or just actively disparaged. So that's what we're going to talk about today, the ongoing parody and degradation of motherhood. But before you once again board my hell gondola and together 75.com for 50% off your first factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. I personally believe that motherhood has been under attack for some time. And as most of you probably already know, because I have talked about it again and again, a lot of it started with language changes, referring to women as birthing persons, egg producers, and gestational carriers. I even found one particularly painful video where a man is trying to explain pregnancy and calling women host bodies.
There's a host body, and that host body has to have a certain amount of...
They're talking like it's some sort of parasitic thing that's threatening their life. Host body. Oh, God. The stupidity is whittling at my fucking intelligence.
rights, because at the end of the day, it is that body that carries this entire other body to term. The question is, what is the value of that life, and is it subordinate to the value of its host body?
The guy, he was giving him the look like, are you fucking stupid? I would stare at the guy and be like, this guy's a fucking idiot. Actually, you know what? Halfway through his speech, I probably would have told him to shut the fuck up and say it's a mom. It is a pregnant mother. It is a pregnant woman that is going to be a mother within however many more months she has of pregnancy. It's...
that you had,
like we are incubating chest-busting aliens or something. Blah.
oh god.
The language started making its
Great movie, by the way. Alien is a wonderful series.
way into actual
Inclusive and gender-neutral language. Lovely. All right, I've said this before and I will keep saying it. Not everything in the entire fucking world needs inclusivity. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Not everything, not every movie, not every game, not every space, not every story. Not everything in life needs inclusivity. All genders versus both genders. There are only 2 genders. 3 if you include intersex. Because there are many different gender identities, avoid using binary language that indicates there are only 2, because there are only 2. Use all genders instead of both genders, opposite sex, or either sex. If referring only to sex, use female, male, or intersex. Breastfeeding, I think it's so stupid it calls it chest feeding. The term chest feeding or body feeding, that sounds even worse, can be used alongside breastfeeding. No, it can't. To be more inclusive, fuck your inclusivity. Non-binary, which is not an actual thing, or trans people may not align with the term breastfeeding because of their gender or may have dysphoric relationship to their anatomy. Well, I'm sorry, you know what? If you don't have boobs from being a female, then you cannot breastfeed because you don't produce the milk needed to feed the child. Yes, men can have breasts, but they cannot breastfeed like a female can. Chest feeding will not replace the word breastfeeding or nursing, but it should be included as an option when discussing lactation. No, it shouldn't. No. I'm just... all of this gives me a headache and it just upsets me. I don't understand why I'm so upset with it. I'm sorry. There are only 2 genders, and like I said, 3 if you include intersex. Because there are only 2 genders, because only 2 genders can make another life. Other than, you know, some creatures who are hermaphroditic or asexual that reproduce off by splitting or whatever else. But only a male and female can make another human life. Same thing with mammals. Only a male and female can make another life. That's just how it works. That is how we evolved. There are only 2 genders, male, female. Intersex if you include 3. No, 3 if you include intersex. Sorry. Non-binary is not a thing. Because if it was an actual thing, they would have gone extinct pretty fucking quick.
Medical and political spheres. Suddenly, nobody wanted to say women and mothers.
All pregnant and birthing people deserve to be treated with.
Okay, well, Michael, do you know what the leading cause of death for pregnant people is?
Pregnant people? Mothers? Women?
If you'd like to call them mothers, not all of them are mothers, but if you'd like to call them that,
What are they if they're not mothers?
they're pregnant people.
What people other than mothers are pregnant?
Back in 2022, a trans activist called Nori Mae Welby called for Mother's Day
The person looks like she's been through some shit. Damn.
to be renamed in order to be more inclusive. Mae Welby suggested
Australia's first official official crazy person calls for Mother's Day to be renamed so it includes transgender men who have given birth. Transgender men can give birth because they are biologically female. So therefore you are biologically a mother. Therefore you are included in Mother's Day. Now, men and trans women cannot give birth because they are all biological men, while women and trans men who are biological women can give birth, and therefore are biologically mothers. I don't understand why people have such a problem with this.
Nurturers Day so as to include men who give birth. A few years earlier, in 2020, an individual called Bennett Casper Williams kicked off at hospital staff after giving birth. The nurses reportedly kept calling Casper Williams, who identifies as a man, Mom. I hate it here. And as most of you probably already know, the reason for all of this is to be inclusive, to use gender-neutral language. Because in a culture where a female can give birth and then claim to be a
Here's the other thing. When it comes to medical issues and doctors, they have to be biologically correct. Because if they're not, they can give you the wrong treatment that would hurt you more. So you can't really argue with the doctor at all, especially when those go in to get treated for something and they tell them that they identify as a man and they want to be treated as a man. Well, I'm sorry. You have to tell them what you biologically are so they can help you and treat you the correct way. Whether you like it or not. They have to be biologically correct because men and women's bodies function differently. We do not function the same, and we never will, because it is how evolution has deemed it so.
Father, and a male can step into the role of mother, it is apparently very important that this tiny portion of the population feel gender affirmed.
There needs to be space in the birthing world that allows me to show up as a birthing person.
And to paraphrase a particularly good part of a 2019 Spiked article, given that virtually every pregnancy involves someone in possession of their female reproductive organs, the attempt to eliminate the term pregnant woman and female language around pregnancy is driven by more than the existence of a tiny minority of transgender individuals. It is driven by a determination to separate women from motherhood. Now, none of this has ever been fine, but if we could have stopped here, the damage would have felt a lot less catastrophic. Who am I kidding? It would have been the same. But it didn't stop there, and things went on to get much worse. The growing trend of detaching female biology from pregnancy and motherhood is now in full swing. And this ongoing confusion over gender and sex means people are not only calling into question the distinction between men and women, but allowing motherhood in general to be parodied even further. And frankly, it's a little terrifying the speed at which the gender movement
I'm sorry. What the fuck was that?
And frankly, it's a little terrifying.
What is great gender? All right, let's see this insanity. It's when someone identifies as at least partially outside the gender binary and has a strong ambivalence about their gender identity or gender expression. Huh? What kind of speech vomit is this? Whatever.
The speed at which the gender movement went from being an obscure fringe
Neopronouns, xenopronouns.
group of people to being so prominent.
See, transgender, gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, asexual. Okay, here's the thing. There are only 3... when it comes to sexual orientation, there are only 3. Gay, which does include lesbian, because if you're a woman and you like another woman, you're basically just gay. Gay, lesbian is just more specific to women, but gay is all encompassing. So if you like the same sex, you're gay. If you like both sexes, regardless of anything else, if you just like them for their intellect, if you're only attracted to that or whatever else, it's bisexual. Despite what you put it under, pansexual, asexual, it's bisexual because you're attracted to both genders, both sexes, whichever way you want to say it. And then there's straight. You're only attracted to the opposite sex. Those are the only 3: gay, bisexual, straight. Adding all this other stuff is just making it way more complicated. That's all there is to it. So, yeah, sexual orientation: gay, straight, bisexual. That's all there is. Logically, that's all there is.
And we can't get away from it no matter how hard we try. Towards the end of March 2024,
a new study has revealed that a 50-year-old trans-identified male induced lactation to breastfeed his grandchild in order to affirm his gender. The man fed the infant for 2 weeks despite only producing 4% of the nutrients a baby needs. See, this is why women breastfeed, because they actually produce a lot of the nutrients that babies need. Men do not. This is why men don't breastfeed.
my outlet, The Publica, published an article about a research study that followed a 50-year-old male who identifies as a woman who induced lactation to breastfeed a child. No, this is not a joke. This child also happened to be this individual's grandchild. Real talk, what mother is letting this happen? And how do you even broach this with someone? Hello, Susan. As you know, I am a woman now and I wish to feed my grandchild. Please hand him over. The scientific case report.
Novel lactation induction protocol for a transgender woman wishing to breastfeed, a case report.
From Breastfeeding Medicine.
I'm sorry, but if you're a trans man, trans woman, whatever trans you're identifying as, unless you're a biological woman, you should not be trying to breastfeed a child. You just shouldn't. If you're not a woman and you're raising a child alone, the best thing you can do is get formula. That's it. Don't try and breastfeed them, because you do not produce the amount of nutrients a baby needs growing up.
And essentially outlined how this individual induced lactation in an effort to achieve gender affirmation.
Background: lactation induction in transgender women is a clinical and research priority in the field of breastfeeding medicine. How is this a priority? To date, there are 4 case reports detailing successful induced lactation in transgender patients who wish to breastfeed. The Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine does not formally recommend a specific medication regime for transgender patients due to lack of high-quality research. How is this a priority in clinical research? How? When there are much more prevalent things to be researching in the clinical field. Why is this a priority?
information, and this was subsequently studied for whatever reason. And if this sounds crazy to you, males inducing lactation in order to breastfeed children and be more gender affirmed, unfortunately, is pretty well documented. In fact, some of you might remember.
I'm sorry, if you're doing this mainly to affirm your own gender, you shouldn't have a kid. Because at that point, you care more about affirming your own gender than you do caring for the child. You have a child. You care more about the child's health than your own fucking gender affirmations. People. An NHS trust has said that breast milk produced by trans women who were assigned male at birth is as good for babies as that produced by a mother who has given birth. I highly, highly fucking doubt that.
Remember back in February, a leaked letter from the National Health Service Trust in the UK claimed that milk produced by a trans-identified male is just as good for babies as a mother's breast milk. In addition to describing the drug-induced nipple discharge.
A leaked letter from the medical director of University Hospitals Sussex NHS Foundation Trust describes both as human milk and says that they are the ideal food for infants.
Charge produced by males on cross-sex hormones as human milk, the University Hospitals Sussex NHS Foundation Trust, which that is very hard to say, also called it the ideal food for infants.
This study centres a trans woman who successfully breastfed her baby. She induced lactation via hormone therapy, using domperidone as a galactagogue, breast pumping, and then directly breastfeeding her infant. She co-fed with her partner, the baby's gestational parent, meaning the parent who carried the pregnancy, for the infant's first 4 months of life. When compared with average nutritional values of breast milk expressed by cisgender women 10 to 12 weeks after...
This whole cisgender thing needs to really fucking stop. It's just women and men. There is no cis in it. There are trans women, trans men, men, and women. No cis. Stop forcing your ideals on other people.
Delivery, values that were taken from a large systematic review of milk analysis. These breast milk samples showed nutritional values that were equal to or higher for fat, protein, lactose, and calories.
When people find out that trans people can actually do this, I think it creates the same kind of outrage.
I feel as though a lot of this stuff was probably cherry-picked.
As the first lesbian kiss on television, that there's a social change happening. You're being the best parent that you can be, and don't ever forget that.
Depressingly, I actually found a bunch of people talking about this, continually making the claim that these two milks have the same nutritional value. And it's like, do people not realize how complex female biological processes are? Like, how complex breastfeeding is, and the amazing things that the female body can do while producing milk to sustain and feed and nourish an infant? Like, are we just gonna pretend that the female body can't do neato things with pathogens and then create antibodies to give to baby? Like, what are we doing here? There was even this video.
I feel as though if the trans women have to take drugs in order to produce milk to breastfeed a child, you shouldn't be breastfeeding the child, because a woman's body can naturally produce milk for said child. Whereas if you are a trans woman and you have to use drugs and other means to lactate and produce said milk, you really shouldn't be breastfeeding the child. That just sounds horribly dangerous.
That popped off in mid-2023, where a trans-identified individual called Naomi discusses inducing lactation and being a mother.
I'm gonna be a mother. That's in the works, in the process, and part of that process is that I am working to induce lactation to be able to breastfeed our youngest child. Yeah, actually mommy Naomi. I've actually already successfully induced lactation. Like, I can actually make milk now, which has been a very interesting and very cool experience. It's like very biologically affirming too, which is something that's like gate kept from trans women, like so difficult.
It has not been gate kept. It is something you shouldn't be doing. at all.
Apparently, Naomi's stepchild was also breastfed by Naomi. I hate it here. But of course, not all of this revolves around biological males trying to breastfeed babies. And I'm quite glad for that, honestly. There is also this general mockery of pregnancy that genuinely boils my blood.
I've been thinking a lot lately about the part of the trans femme experience that is you have to mourn the fact that you cannot give birth, you cannot get pregnant, you cannot have your own children.
That is because you, as a man, do not have a uterus, cannot produce eggs, cannot get periods, and therefore cannot get pregnant. If you want to get mad at anything, get mad at evolution. Because that is how we evolved. You dumb fuck.
And as much as that doesn't really apply to me and my needs anymore, like I know I don't want to have children, I know I shouldn't have children, but when the hormones are flowing through my blood, you know, and that estrogen spikes and that progesterone gets added in, like all I want is to have a baby, even though that's not what I want. It's what the hormones want. It's that motherly instinct, which I've always felt connected to. But I never felt connected to fatherhood. Fatherhood never made any sense to me. And then when I transitioned, all my brain could think about is that I want to participate in the beautiful thing that makes the female gender generally so unique, is that we can give life, but I can't. And that doesn't take away from me being a woman at all. That would be discounting the experience of millions of AFAB people that cannot give birth.
The fuck is an AFAB?
But it does make me bummed out, though. But, you know, we get to dream about it. We just turned it into a kink.
Sometimes it's hard to believe that these people put these videos on the internet voluntarily. Like, they choose to record it, upload it, and then they knowingly hit publish. Maybe don't do that.
We just turned it into a kink.
In my searches of the internet, I came across video after video of individuals joking about getting uterus transplants.
The first trans woman to have a successful uterus transplant, ovaries and eggs included. And I want to be the first trans woman to.
That's not going to work out. Due to how men and women's biology works. That is not going to happen. I'm sorry, but it can't. Our bodies are not, man's body is not designed to house a uterus and is not designed to produce eggs. So it's just not going to happen. We're not designed to do that.
To have an abortion.
It's all so tiring. This individual, called Addie in particular, has posted several videos on TikTok claiming to be the recipient of a uterus transplant.
I decided, can I film?
Mm-hmm.
To get a uterus transplant. This is crazy. Okay. Wish me luck.
Which, as far as I know, is absolute nonsense, given that the first uterus transplant wasn't even performed until, I'm pretty sure, 2014, and fewer than 50 of them have been performed since. Not to mention, if you are in fact a male who gets a uterus transplant, then what are you gonna do with that there, friend? How are you gonna use that? What's gonna go on there? In other clips, Addie jokes about getting a neo-vagina, only to have it ripped open again by a baby, jokes about being several days post-op from uterus transplant surgery, and claims that this surgery will result in being a biological woman. Well, we've all got some news for you, friend. No. In another video, Addie discusses this procedure and says that no matter how much surgical work is done, including a uterus transplant, people still don't view trans-identified individuals as women.
Always knew that I wanted to.
Because biologically they aren't. You can change physically all you want. You can physically look like a woman. And there are some who you really can't tell were once male. They're really fucking good at it. But biologically, you're not a woman. You never will be. We don't have the technology to biologically change somebody from a male to a female.
to be a mom, but I really always have the instinct of wanting to carry my child. Giving birth, I can't have children, and I get it repeated to me as an insult over and over again. Me sitting here telling people that I have been years on hormones, had the surgery, yet I still get called male. And if I get a uterus, I'm still not a woman. So what makes a woman? Organs do not define your gender. Newsflash, a lot of women can't have children or even have a uterus.
I find it really upsetting when people make comments like this, and something that I always come back to is that non-functioning female anatomy is still female anatomy. Even absent female anatomy, as in the case of women who've gotten hysterectomies or mastectomies and what have you, this doesn't negate that that woman is female, and that every cell in their body is programmed to be female. And this rolls me around to the trans-identified individuals who transition and then want to be called mothers. Some of you might remember a clip from a few years ago where trans TikToker Dylan Mulvaney made comments about wanting to have kids and to be a mum. It reminds me, every time I see it, of all the women and children who suddenly have to contend with husbands and fathers deciding that they too are women.
Sharing the mom title. Partner is male to female, transitioning. We have a 16-month-old son. I don't understand why you still count as months as soon as they hit 12 months. At that point, they're just a year old. It never made sense to me. I've been his mama, and my partner has been daddy his whole life. I'm struggling. I know daddy hurts my wife's feelings. I know it's selfish to keep calling her that, but I can't bring myself to tell our little boy, say night to mommy, or look what mommy is doing, or whatever, because I am his only mommy, and I feel like I'm losing so much already. That I love being my little baby's only mommy, and now I have to give it up. I don't know if I'm making sense. I don't know if I'm sounding selfish. So far, she's been fair and understanding about my inability to switch titles, but I know it will cause issues when we are out in public with her dressed as a woman and not exactly passing, and our little calling her daddy. Thoughts? Sucks to be you.
I've seen countless anecdotal stories across the internet of women lamenting how hard it was for them when their husbands turned around and wanted to be addressed as a mother and called mum by their children.
My dad is now transitioned into a female, and now my mum. I can't really remember what she was as a male, but it's been like a couple of years now, and it's just, it feels like normal.
Remember she one time told me that when I give her money, I'm her daddy. But when I cook for her, I take care of her, I'm her mommy.
On Mother's Day, I think it's important to remember that trans women can be mothers too. And this morning, my son remembered.
We're going to have even greater water bills, soaring bills, a time of prices already being hiked. You know, we have to pay a lot for food. That's tough if you're a mum like me, already struggling to get the things that my kid needs.
Some of these women describe the feeling as these men just showing up to claim something that they'd not actually taken any real part in. They didn't grow this child, feed this child, they were not pregnant, they didn't sacrifice their bodies at all, and yet they want to be called mum and referred to as a mother?
This Mother's Day is especially significant for me because it's the first Mother's Day that I am celebrating since coming out as trans and starting HRT. At church this Sunday morning, they gave all the moms carnations and letters saying Happy Mother's Day, and I was happy to be a recipient of one of those. I took it home and showed my daughter, and who is 8, and she said, "But you're not a mom." I said, "Well, yes, I am." And she said, "No, you're not." And the reason she said that is because my wife doesn't allow her to call me mom. I'm known as parent. I said to her, well, I'm a mom whether you acknowledge that or not. I am still a mom.
It's almost like they...
Okay.
want to cosplay as mothers and push out the real mother who was there all along. So it's like not super surprising why these women are very angry. It seems that progressives and trans rights activists are very comfortable redefining motherhood to validate themselves. Destruction of actual motherhood be damned. And they seem to believe in order to be valid in their identity, they must bully others and force society to conform to their wants and desires. The most telling thing is knowing that these individuals, who are most often biological males, are doing so knowing full well they will never be able to do any of the things that women do, especially when it comes to the very complex and amazing processes of producing offspring. For whatever reason, males who believe themselves to be women believe they are entitled to redefine our understandings of motherhood and mothers to accommodate their emotional needs, and somehow they've gotten politicians, the legal system, and even the medical system to join them in this delusion. Ultimately, I am of the view that mothers deserve so much more respect than what our culture is currently giving them. And watching mums be subjected to all of this nonsense in order to appease a small portion of the population is offensive in ways I can't even articulate. In the end, nothing can take away from women just how special motherhood actually is. But sadly, and I don't think that
I don't understand why a lot of people are trying to conform and appease the very vocal minority at the sacrifice of the majority. It makes no sense to do that. I think the vocal minority of all of this needs to just shut the fuck up. They really need to just shut the hell up. Because it's it's just so stupid.
this gets discussed enough, it will actually be the children who ultimately pay the price for the confusion of adults. Now, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Factor using the link in the description. They have a ton of meal options on offer, as well as yummy little snacks and bits and pieces. Definitely worth checking out. Go and do it and use my link. Now, I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Are you a mum who is genuinely feeling quite degraded and unhappy with the current state of the conversations around motherhood and pregnancy and breastfeeding? Are you somebody who doesn't think this is that big of a deal, and actually you're kind of happy that we're including other people in the motherhood discussion? What do you make of the chest feeding conversation, of the induced lactation? What do you make of these people talking about getting uterus transplants? What do you think of the way that society is trending as far as motherhood goes? Do you think that we are degrading it? Do you think that we are parodying it? Do you think that this is not great? Do you think this is fine? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you made it this far in the video, congratulations. You know I like having you along for the full ride. If you are not subscribed already and you would like to see more of me and more of this channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button, as well as leaving this video a like and a comment. I do read the majority of them and I really like hearing your feedback. Of course, as well, if you have any video suggestions, let me know. But in the meantime, in the interim, I will see you wonderful, lovely, pretty people in the next video.
Yeah. If you are trans female and have...
Well, that was Sydney Watson's video. The parody of motherhood continues. I don't understand why a lot of these people have such a problem with the word mother, want to try and invade the space of being a mother when they clearly cannot, and they don't seem to want to accept that they can't, even though reality says they can't. I don't understand it. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe for more. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye. Oh, I mean video.